Welcome back to the podcast, Own Your Eating. Today, it's just Jason in the studio, and of course, by studio, I mean our living room. But I'm coming to you with a topic that has become very near and dear to my heart, and it's something that lately we've been really talking a lot about because this mindset of flexible eating can definitely steer you in a direction of eating more processed foods. We get on the bandwagon, and for many of us, it's the first time in our entire lives that we're able to eat foods we love and actually lose weight. Not to mention, I'm sure if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you realize it's a whole lot easier to scan a barcode and send it to MyFitnessPal than it is to chop up vegetables and throw them on the scale and cook them or weigh your meat. So scanning that box of cereal or scanning that barcode on a Lenny and Larry's cookie, Snickerdoodle of course being the best flavor, is much easier. But I'm here to tell you we can't lose sight of the fact that eating 80-20 is of the utmost importance. And 80-20 is just a term that I use. I think, if you're around the business world, if you're an entrepreneur, you hear that expression of 80-20 for some things. It means like 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients, or vice versa. 80% of your headaches could come from 20% of your members, and figuring it out who that 20% is, what that 80% is, and all that. But the other way I look at it is we have to be living our lives 80-20 when it comes to nutrition. And what that means is 80% of your food should be coming from good quality, healthy food. And when I say that, what I mean is food that we wouldn't argue about. Food that we wouldn't have to have a conversation of whether this is healthy. Now, this is where it becomes a little bit sticky, because I feel eating the right amount of food for your body is the number one priority, and that is healthy. The example I use is we can use our friend Jerry from the tribe, who has lost over 70 pounds. He's down over 70 pounds. We met him September 11th at CrossFit South Brooklyn. And beyond that, Jerry and I went to college together back in the day at SUNY Albany. So I've known him for a very long time. And he's always had some struggles with his weight. But he was at his highest when we saw him in Brooklyn. And he's down 70 pounds eating this way, using the Own Your Eating program, practicing flexible eating. I don't think Jerry's going to go to his doctor, show up 70 pounds lighter, and his doctor's going to tell him to stop what you're doing because what you're doing is unhealthy. You're eating foods that aren't good for you. The dude is down 70 pounds. There is no arguing whether or not he's healthier. There's a direct correlation between your body weight, your waist circumference, and your overall health. Jerry is healthier. So when I say healthier foods, what I'm really trying to say is more vitamins and minerals, more nutrition with everything you're eating. For example, we know a carb is a carb is a carb. You can get them from broccoli or you can get them from donuts. But we're not going to argue over the health and the micronutrient, the minerals that are in broccoli. We're not going to say, hey, this food's bad for you. Yeah, too much of anything could be bad. You'd be hard-pressed to eat too much broccoli, but the average person looks at a donut, they're going to tell you it's unhealthy. Yes, if you're a part of our tribe, if you understand flexible eating, you understand how eating a donut can be healthy, because part of that being healthy is also your mindset. There's no deprivation. But when I say 80% of your foods should come from good quality foods, that's what I'm saying. Make them foods that there's no arguing about. Think about it. If I sent this food back in a time machine to my great ancestors, they're going to know exactly what this is. They're going to either have hunted for it or tried to find it. It's either going to be a meat, a fruit, or a vegetable, most likely. But 20% of the foods you eat have to come from foods you love. And that's going to be those foods most likely, like pizza, like donuts, like breads, pastas, cheeses, desserts, all of those things that in the past we would have deprived ourselves of because we were told we can't eat those and actually lose weight. Newsflash, spoiler alert, You can. You can eat those foods you love and you can still lose weight. Now, truth be told, life isn't always easy. Sometimes there's stress, there's struggle, there's work, there's husbands, wives, kids, dogs that make life a little more challenging. You can't always be perfect 80-20. There are times I've literally been 10-90, eating just bad quality processed foods but hitting my numbers, and at the end of the day, that's a win. When life throws stress at me and I'm still able to eat the right amount of food in order to support everything that I need, support training to keep me healthy, to keep my immune system boosted, to not gain weight, that's a win. And you have to look at the big picture. Hopefully, those are short, small periods of time, a few days here and there, even a week or two. When you look at the big picture of your month, your year, your lifetime, that's when we're looking at 80-20. So while I've definitely had periods in my life that were more 10-90, I've also had periods of my life that are more 90-10. In fact, I'm in one right now. You guys have seen the posts, whether it's on our Instagram or on Facebook or on our blog, ownyoureating.com/blog. I've talked about the fact that I'm eating clean right now. I travel a lot for work. I work for CrossFit. I work on their seminar staff. And in the month of December, I was in Dubai. I was in Nebraska. I was in Greece. I was all over this planet. And when I came back from Greece, I was run down. I was tired. But my stomach was an absolute mess. I could not eat without it leaving me in terrible pain, cramped on the couch, just laying there. And it got to the point where I was afraid to eat, and discussed it with Roz, discussed it with a couple of our friends who have a good education and background in nutrition, and I decided, hey, I need to clean it up. I need to remove anything processed. I need to remove anything that is going to potentially do harm to my body, and my body got better. I added a few supplements. I'll talk about those another time, but I added a probiotic, I added charcoal, I added a digestive enzyme, and it took a few weeks, but my stomach finally healed up. And truth be told, I'm feeling great, I'm recovering well, I'm training very hard right now, and I'm down a few pounds. I feel energized, I feel satisfied, but I also know I can't live like this forever. Because right now I'm trying to live 100-0, and I already sense that slight neurosis, that slight OCD starting to enter my brain of, hey, you can never eat any bad food and ever again. You have to only eat clean. And while I'm still hitting my numbers, I'm hitting them very diligently, I know that if I never let that 20% back into my life, I'm going to get a little bit crazy. And one day it's going to turn into me overdosing on mac and cheese or pizza or waking up passed out with just empty boxes of Dunkin' Donuts laying beside me, and I don't want that. So slowly I've added a little bit in. I had a little bit of pasta last night. I'll have a little bit of chocolate one night, but I'm trying to keep it in that healthy mindset of that 80-20. And that's what I want you guys to think about. If you're new to this journey, I want you to get used to eating the right amount of food, your protein, your carbs, and your fats. And while I want you to keep an eye on your micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, things like how much calcium you're taking in, how much fiber you're getting, even your sugar, I want you to spend more time and pay closer attention to your macronutrients, your protein, your carbs, and your fats. Make good quality choices, but get your body accustomed and used to eating the right amount of food. Then, when you've been doing this long enough, let's start paying more attention to living that 80-20 way, cleaning it up, understanding, hey, I can have some ice cream today, and what's cool about it is I can also have some ice cream tomorrow. So I don't need to eat that whole pint of Ben & Jerry's, because I can have a half a cup tonight and still have a half a cup tomorrow, and start to really understand and respect that food that you're having. I think that's a big lesson that we learn here, is to treat that food with respect and create your rituals and not just throw food down your face for the sake of eating it. For me, that means every time I eat, I sit down. I'm very mindful about it. I'm doing my best to shut my computer, to put my phone down, and once I track it, of course, but to sit there and only think about eating and enjoying it, and whether that's with Roz or my parents or by myself, really being mindful about it. And I think hopefully what you're learning across this journey of flexible eating and with us at Own Your Eating is to create a healthier, stronger, better relationship with food. And that's really what it is all about. We need to track. That's certainly something we're going to do forever. People ask us, hey, does it ever get to the point where you don't need to track? Probably not. As good as you can get with eyeballing, it's not the same as tracking. But you can definitely get to that point where you don't need those treats every single day. Most of you have heard this story, but when I started flexible eating, I saved the majority of my carbohydrates almost every day for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm talking 4 servings a day, 124 grams of carbohydrates. And I lost weight. Felt great. But I also realized this is probably not ideal for my insides. I need more fruits and vegetables. And the novelty started to wear off. It wasn't 3 days in, don't get me wrong. It was probably 2 to 3 months in. But at that point I said, okay, I can continue to eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Do I really need 4 servings a day? Probably not. And that's where that mindset really started to shift. That mindset became, hey, I can have this food, but I could also have it again tomorrow. That's where I want you to go with this. Regardless of where you are on this journey, I want you to keep in mind we're chasing long-term health, long-term wellness, and that's going to come from being smart with the foods that we eat, living in that 80-20 world, understanding, hey, we need to hit our numbers, but we need to also focus on the quality of foods we're having. And when we do that, that's when we can really optimize what we're getting out of this program. What we can get out of Own Your Eating can really hit a peak, hit its pinnacle when we dial all of that in. And it doesn't have to be hard. Start slowly. Add a few pieces of fruit instead of something sugary in a dessert. Add a vegetable. What your plate should look like in a well-balanced meal is probably a quarter of it should be devoted to your protein, your meat. A quarter of it could be maybe like a starchier food like rice and potatoes, and then half of it can be vegetables. The cool thing about that is it's going to leave you full. There's going to be so much food to eat. It's going to take longer to digest, so you'll feel full longer, and you can know that you're giving your body some good fuel. That's what I want you to take from this podcast. But I want to hear from you guys. If you've listened to this entire podcast, go into the tribe, Facebook, Own Your Eating Tribe, and I want you to post your thoughts on living 80-20 and what that means for you. So go into the tribe. Let us know what you thought about that. We've got another podcast coming to you next week. We've got some great content. If you haven't looked at the blog recently, Roz has put up some great posts about sleep, something else that's vital to this overall health and well-being. We've got our most recent Transformation Tuesday. We've got my life lessons from the road, which I'm really proud of. So check it all out, ownyoureating.com. We'll see you in the tribe, and we look forward to being back next week right here on the Own Your Eating podcast.